The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, traders. So welcome to the Bookmap Pro Trader webinar series here with Raghee Horner. This is Bruce at Bookmap. Just a quick audio video check. Can you guys hear me and see my screen? Yes. Okay, excellent. Okay. All right, good. Then we're all set to go. Yeah, we're really happy to come across and find out that Raghee has been using Bookmap. I didn't really know this until just I think about a month ago or so, and was really excited here. So I've been following Raghee for quite a while actually. When I started trading, she's been trading for a long time here, since age 17 while still in high school. Has a passion for communicating the message of the markets, as well as teaching traders how to find an edge in the currency and futures markets. She's a author of 3 different books. She's always out speaking in different engagements and seminars, as well as the chief currency analyst at IBFX, and travels all around the globe here, sharing the knowledge that she has gained, and is currently with simplercurrencies.com. Okay, and if you have any kind of questions about Bookmap, you can always reach out to us at support@bookmap.com. Our Twitter feed is there as well, and then our support email and website. Risk disclaimer, I need to go through that. Trading futures, equities, and digital currencies involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. And then here it is, if you're interested in reaching out to Raghee and more information about her, here is her website, her Twitter, her YouTube channel, and her email, as well as Bookmap special offers that are from her. Okay, I'm going to put this into the chat, so you don't need to write all this down or anything like that. I'll put it in several times during this webinar. You can click on the links. It's in the chat box here, so there you go. Go ahead and click on those if you're interested in reaching out to Raghee or finding more information about her. Other than that, I'm just going to turn it right over to Raghee and let her take it away.
All right, sounds great. Let me get the screen going here. All right, I'm not sure which screen you guys are seeing yet. Hang on one sec. This is the fun of multiple monitors. Let's see.
So I see kind of a price channel.
All right, let me, I know one of these is, there we go. How's that?
Oh, okay, there we go. Yep.
Yeah, scanning across 10 monitors is always fun. There we go. We got the magic one. All right, very cool. All right, so let's get going. Again, thank you so much to Bookmap and to Bruce. And yes, I have been a subscriber. Actually, I'm a lifetime subscriber of Bookmap, and I've been enjoying using the platform, as I think many of you have. And I'm always finding new ways to get more from the transparency and, quite frankly, the edge that it gives me. And I remember this sort of being reduced, and this is kind of going back. Some of you might remember things like an audio squawk when you were trading the S&P pit traded contract. Forget the electronic minis. I remember hearing a squawk. Some of you might remember from Ben Lichtenstein way back when, and we'd hear what was going on the floor. Well, this to me is that, but better. What I'm able to see is that transparency. To me, it's sonar. That's kind of the way I look at my trading. What am I able to see? What kind of tools can I use or develop that give me the ability to see what other traders simply can't? And that's really what Bookmap is to me. It's that sonar, sort of pinging away, showing me where that liquidity support resistance may be. So with that in mind, of course, if there are any questions, we'll keep this very conversational, and for sure Bruce will step in, and we can take any questions that you guys would like. What I've done this morning is what I do every morning, which is I'll trade pre-market and I'll trade, obviously during the more popular market hours. But what I did is I grabbed some screenshots that I want to kind of cover as we just sort of move through the session here. And what you'll notice is I've got a little bit of the platform that I use just to look at some charting. And then really what the integral part of Bookmap is for me is not just that trend that isn't visible immediately on the candlestick or the Western bar chart, what have you. What's going on inside that 1 minute candle or that 5 minute candle? And that for me is the edge that we get, because a lot of folks won't know what's going on inside that candle without the dots, without the pie chart of the dots, and even the accumulation of the dots at particular price levels. So I think a few folks in the past have asked me, Rog, do you trade exclusively through Bookmap, or do you kind of go through different tools? So I don't want anybody feeling like they couldn't supplant, they couldn't replace the charts they're using with Bookmap. But having been trading now, and yeah, I started trading at 15. I really took it seriously at 17, and so seriously that I darn near flunked out of college. I was on the dean's list, but the other kind, when they tell you, yeah, we might have to ask you to leave, because I was too busy sitting in my dorm rooms, trading, looking at charts and trying to find those levels. And so this was a big part of my life. But now that I've got tools like Bookmap, again, I think that's where possibly a lot of you are sitting, where I know there's something I can do here. I'm not necessarily ready to let go of some of the technical analysis or support and resistance work that I do. But what does time and price oriented volume tell me? So let's talk about one thing first. And let's talk about what most of the market's already doing. So I'm in a kind of a platform that allows me to mark up the charts a little bit here. I hope you guys can see it pretty clearly, and I'm happy to give you guys these screen grabs, but this is what I did this morning. So these are all from literally just a handful of hours ago. And I wanted to show you guys, what we were looking at, what I did this morning here in my office. So first of all, what is most of the market looking at? Most of the market is looking at some sort of volume bar at the bottom of their chart, traditional volume, as I did many, many moons ago, until I learned that time-based volume alone really wasn't going to give me the transparency or the insight into what was really happening on the chart. So if I take this, and these are just literally from my desktop. I usually have side-by-side markets, whether it's NASDAQ and the S&P, or whether it's gold and the yen. I was trading a lot of gold and yen today, but we'll talk about whatever market you guys want to break down. But what I want to point out is there might be levels on the chart. So let's take, for example, this image of the yen here on the right. And you'll see I put some arrows there to point out that's a zone that I'm watching that's based on historical volatility. All right, so part of our topic here today is how I use historical volatility in Bookmap. So, I think like a lot of us, we might be looking at some sort of, platform where we're looking at sort of traditional candlesticks or Western bar chart. And I know there's a zone here based on the typical price movement range for the Japanese yen futures contract between 9 and 10 that projects a low here. A lot of us have different ways to find support and resistance. But one of the reasons it's sort of flawed or incomplete, might be a better way to put it, if you will, is because when this happens, I don't really know, and none of us really do, what's actually happening underneath, right? So I'm going to jump on over to the corresponding chart that I've captured here of the yen. Okay, here we go. So this is the corresponding Bookmap for that chart. So what happens is I start sinking into this historical based volatility support level. So let me give you a little background on what that is. So I'll look at 6 months of historical volatility and break it down into what type of price movement range do I see between 9 and 10 o'clock Eastern, 10 and 11, 11 and 12 for the entire day. right, for the entire day. And then once that level projects based on typically what the market does, I'm going to then make sure that Bookmap is telling me that there is, based on price-oriented volume, not time, right? Remember, most folks are looking at volume based on time, which doesn't tell you where the participation took place. It doesn't tell you where that commitment, that conviction, that size took place. So then I'll head on over to Bookmap and say, okay, I've got a range that I'm interested in. Timing and finding that best level for our entry is, of course, what we do as traders, right? So then now start looking at where I get two things. And gang, I'm showing you guys sort of a very rudimentary, basic, sort of the building blocks of when I first started using Bookmap, like I said, I guess about almost a year ago now. What was the first thing that I sort of observed again and again and again? Now, as you have more time behind the platform, you're going to see so much more nuance. But if I dove into the nuance here in our first discussion together, I think a lot of folks might find it overwhelming and confusing. So let's start with the building blocks of what I do with Bookmap. And the two building blocks are very, very simple, almost embarrassingly simple. I know where that support or resistance may be. Now, you might be using Fibonacci. You might be using traditional support and resistance. Maybe you're using chart patterns. Maybe you're using volume profile, right? I'll still take a look at Bookmap. Somebody asked me one time, is this going to override, or is this going to be something that that volume profile would override? Oh gosh, no. Oh gosh, no. Because remember, sonar, we're getting a different view of the market than we would see on a traditional, say, candlestick chart. So I'm looking at two things. I'm looking at the congregation. How many dots are congregating at a particular level, and does that level jive with what I'm looking at on, any kind of historical price movement range, support or resistance? So here's a resistance level that I was looking at earlier this morning on the yen. I've been shorting yen all morning, and when I rally into a level like this within the context of an overall downtrend, let me show you the Bookmap corresponding with that. The main question then becomes, am I also, and let's see, that's gold from this morning here, okay. Am I also seeing, and this was that section right here. So if you're wondering, okay, Rag, where does that sync up with your chart? It syncs up with all of this, all right? So I'm trading up into this area right in here, which, I'm not sure if the market's gonna hold that level. I know that I wanna be short. And then I see this on Bookmap, and I know two things. One, look at all the dots congregating, and there's not a lot of activity at the moment. The market's waiting on something. So I know I'm going to need a catalyst. So not only is Bookmap telling me this thing is utterly sandwiched. Does everyone see that? I mean, look at the way it's literally sandwiched, right? But I'm not getting that big dot. I'm not getting that participation yet. I'm not getting that breach with conviction. And remember, these are going to be slightly smaller dots than I would see after 9:30 Eastern. And one of the things a lot of folks tell me is it's so tough to trade pre-market, not with Bookmap, because I'm able to see things that someone looking at sort of a sparsely populated 1 minute or 3 minute or 5 minute chart isn't going to be able to feel. And I love that word with Bookmap. You could literally feel the surge, and then you see it. Boom, there it is. So I'm already wanting to be bearish. I already see this thing as sandwiched. I'm just looking for the follow through. So what I'm able to do with a lot of confidence is take my short, and I'm able to wait. And I can't emphasize how important the ability to understand when to just chill out and wait is. Because a lot of folks get impatient, they get uncertain, doubt starts to fill their mind because, oh, well, maybe the market's going to really explode higher on me, or maybe I'm in the wrong trade. The ability to understand what's going on inside these 1 minute candles, it's not giving me a lot. This gives me the confidence. All right. So I don't know if any questions have popped up yet on this example, but again, I want to look at these dots congregating, and then I'm looking for the size of the dot. I want that one big dot showing me, okay, here's that push coming in. Here's either that respect for support, here's that respect for resistance, or in this case, after that really nice consolidation, where I'm already looking at a historical price movement range exhaustion zone, now I'm getting that confirmation. So I thought I'd take any questions if they've arrived so far.
Um, some questions looking at some different markets. Nothing on the image that you're showing at the
Okay.
moment.
Okay. So it's okay. What are the questions? I'm happy to
Oh, okay.
jump over
Well, yeah. I mean, people would like to take a look at the Nasdaq or
Sure.
the YM
Sure.
and the ES as well.
You got it. You got it.
What you think about?
So, I know that a lot of folks love the indices, and I think one of the things I really wanted to do was definitely point out that, and I do have plenty of examples there too. But this morning, for example, I had another example, another setup in gold. I have a lot of folks come to me looking at Bookmap for the broader averages, but gosh, gang, um, the edge you get in looking at yen, bonds, gold, crude, it's so amazing. It's almost like this market that folks overlook, and I definitely didn't want to neglect the broader averages. But take a look at the gold market here, and then I'll definitely move on to some of the stock index examples. I have a zone once again, overall expectation for movement lower. I already can confirm that with Bookmap as I'm seeing the market stair step lower. And I get this zone up here around 1611, 1612 that I know I'd like to short into. Now, is that going to be exhaustive, or is that potentially a zone at which the market's going to just take off on me? And so this is that same zone on Bookmap. So I know that there's this wick that's happening. I know that I have this limit order out there that I'd like to sell at. But again, having the conviction coming from Bookmap, again, I see a lot of congregation of dots. Okay, that's fine. But then I get the larger dot size, and this is very rudimentary. But gang, it for me, it increases the probability of that exhaustion. It increases the probability of the follow through, and certainly increases my conviction when I see a level that I'm watching, that 1611. So you can see that right over here on the right side, and then boom, I get that dot. So that I hope is something that for those of you that are trying to take the Bookmap platform and then marry it with something you're already doing, it does not have to supplant something you're doing. It's only going to make it better. And I think that's definitely something I wanted to, drive home with the examples here. So let me grab some of the screenshots.
I have a question for you, Raghee, on the 6J there.
Sure.
On the way down into some of these areas, I mean, I like the way that you looked for the setup and looking for something very specific, and then once that occurs, what you're looking for and the follow through to the downside. How about managing the trade on the downside? Anything in particular you're looking at?
Well, so here's the culmination of that trade that I took this morning, which was basically shorting 90.68 and change down to 90.61. And you'll see that just like I had the historical price movement range projection here, I'm looking to ride it down to this area. But at the same time, I'm also looking for Bookmap to confirm one of two things. Can I ride it further, or am I seeing a lot of support in that area? So let me get that 6J chart again. Okay, so you'll notice that this zone is happening around 62 to 60. And here's that same chart. So as we're heading down, a lot of folks ask me, well, Rock, how do we know when to push, our trades, or how do we know when to, and I have a lot of screen grabs here, gang, I know, but so I guess the main question is, how do I know my targets? Well, my targets are going to be in many ways the exact opposite of my entries. I want to see again, the dots start to congregate, and I want to see some size. If I start to see some size, and again, the dots congregate, and in the very beginning stages of using Bookmap, gang, have a rudimentary feel, a very basic foundational feel for the order flow, for the flow that you're seeing. You'll eventually get much more nuanced, much more advanced with it. But I think a lot of folks that I've seen wander into Bookmap from the folks that I trade with, they get too advanced, and they try to use too much of clearly what this platform can do. But I think they get intimidated, and ultimately they get frustrated because they're just not starting with that basic. So for me, the basics are going to be the opposite, Bruce. I'm going to be looking for, the dots to congregate, and then I need size. So I had congregation here. The dots were starting to congregate, but I didn't really see the size that I was concerned about. I did at 48. So all of a sudden I've got a dot that's a little bit bigger than the others so far. I see it growing, I see it growing, I see it growing. Am I in a zone on my sort of traditional charting, if you will, that looks like support? I'm going to confirm it there. And it's interesting also, as you take a look just south, take a look at the volume here. I think a lot of folks who look at volume might have ignored this. And I'm talking about time-based volume, not price-based volume. They might have ignored that because they saw this spike in volume here. I really wasn't concerned with that at all. That didn't shake me out because Bookmap told me, don't worry about it. Yeah, this is not price-based support in terms of volume. Here, I was a little bit more concerned. And I said, you know what? Let's scale out. Let's get out while we can, not when we have to. I'm not going to get flat, though, because if I just look at this trend here as it continues to fall, I'm not going to bail. I'm not going to get flat, but I will scale out and I'll move my stop to a break even. So I'm looking for, again, a level that I'm probably already interested in. And then I want to see that some size is coming in, but I'm not necessarily concerned about what most of the market is looking at, which is that time-based volume. We're able to see as it grows. Remember, the one thing that we're not able to see in this conversation is the way that dot starts to grow. And at that point, I'm thinking to myself, get out while you can, not when you have to, Rog. So that's what I'm looking for. So in the very beginning stages, what I'm teaching you guys is what I teach my members. Don't worry about the smaller dots. It's always a relative comparison. Look for the dots to congregate, but then don't let that be the only thing you're looking for. But then look for size. And if you get both of those happening, those dots congregating and then size, you've got something. So that's really how I'll proactively manage a winning trade. And Bookmap's had me really beautifully. Actually, let's go to a live chart of this, because this thing's had me short all morning long. I haven't in any way been completely squeezed out of it. I think a lot of folks around, let me show you here, around this time right on the chart between 10:45 and 11 o'clock, I can tell you a lot of the shorts got spooked, because if they were looking at, let me show you here, if they're looking at traditional charts, which I'm always going to marry, if they're looking at the traditional charts, they started seeing a little bit of strength here. And this is where I know, for me, I don't get squeezed out of this stuff. I don't get fooled into thinking the ride is over anymore, because even though that started to bounce here, notice how Bookmap hardly flinched. I had a lot of size, but I really didn't see anything more than that congregation moving sideways, and then look at all the resistance above. And that's the stuff that we don't see. That's the sonar we can't see on a traditional Western bar chart or candlestick. So yeah, I'm a little concerned, but then I realized, okay, we're just sandwiched. Let me give the market a minute. And if I start to see we're getting down through support and I start to see size again, kind of like the way my trade started in the first place, the sideways action earlier in the morning around 7:15 to 8 a.m. Eastern, I think the patience that this gives me is really just off the charts. That's really what I'm able to get from this. So this is where I'm still short this market, and this was probably one of my best trades on the morning that, thanks to Bookmap, I was able to take advantage of much, much earlier today. I mean, this is now going into the 4th hour of staying short from this area around in the low 90-60s. I mean, I'm 50 ticks into this. So when people talk about, well, are you just scalping with Bookmark? Oh gosh, no. I'm trend following, gang. I'm trend following with this thing, and I think that's where, for me, I have so much more confidence. Is that somewhat helpful, Bruce? Is that, you think that offers a little bit more understanding into what I did this
yeah,
morning?
you nailed it. That's
Okay.
way more than I had anticipated. Really nice answer. Let's see, some questions about, we always get this about time frames and how you deal with that. Like, if you want to answer that, I mean, I think you kind of covered it with, you're looking at your higher time frame chart and your zones, and then you're just zooming into Bookmap for your zones. you're not really looking at any sort of time frame within Bookmap.
I'm not, and that's what I love about Bookmap, because if I want to be confined by time, there's traditional ways to do that. I think Bookmap, not to get all philosophical, but it transcends time. I don't, remember that we're forcing a candlestick we're confining it to a certain slice of psychology. I have enough of those types of tools and enough of that kind of view. So what Bookmap's giving me is something that is showing me when size is coming in, not necessarily being confined by a 1 minute chart or a 5 minute chart. So this, to me, it doesn't matter if I'm trading a 1 minute chart of the NASDAQ or the S&P. We have the S&P on the chart right now. I'll show you what I did in the S&P today. And I think you guys are going to love this. And then, well, you know what? Let me show you all, and then hopefully that it'll resonate. So this is another one of my layouts. I'm looking at the NASDAQ and the S&P, but let's just blow up this chart of the S&P. Okay, so the bell rings, and typically I'm going to let about the first 30 minutes transpire. So that's the clearing range. And I know a lot of folks say, wow, 30 minutes? Look, are there ways to trade the first 30 minutes slightly more aggressively? Absolutely, and I'll use Bookmap for that. But again, let's lay a really good, basic, sort of conservative foundation for the use of this tool. And then, certainly we can get more advanced and nuanced. So let's let the first 30 minutes transpire. The sheer ability, the discipline that you're going to develop by learning to exercise that patience muscle is going to be invaluable. So this is what I see the broader markets doing. So the market rallied up, and through all this, you're going to have the momentum players out there in the market, watching the market climb, and you can see it in the action. All of a sudden, you have a lot of folks committing to the long side in this little cluster that I've circled there, right? Now, I'm not getting sort of, let's call it bamboozled by that for two reasons. One, as the market was rallying, you can see through here, we were already seeing size to the upside, telling me that even though the first 2 minutes after the bell shot down to about 33.78, I'm not going to be fooled into taking a short. Look at the dots. I'm not seeing any real size. Now, look at all the volume. The old-fashioned, and I'm not poking fun at any type of trader. I'm really not. But we've got to, as traders, kill the dogma and the misuse, and really, quite frankly, the overuse of time-based volume. I'm going to go so far as to say it's nearly useless. When you have Bookmap, you're going to find out how misleading it can be. So the market's heading lower and people see the high volume. And a lot of folks are going to think we need to short the market. Well, good luck to them. What they didn't know is what we know as Bookmap users. Nobody's home. I'm not seeing conviction there. All right, so let's move. And regardless, I want to let the first 30 minutes transpire. But take a look. So then we start to move a little bit higher. And you'll notice right about here, now I'm starting to see some size. And when am I seeing some size? The momentum players are coming in. I can see it on my charts. We're starting to move higher, but the momentum players are starting to come in. They've seen the market tick up from 33.78.5 to about 33.81.5. They've seen these 3 points go by. And again, now they're seeing the momentum, and now they're committing. And then they're committing some more, and they're committing some more. Now, this is basically taking us to, as you can tell here, only about 9:40. All right. If I'm going to play with momentum, well, these are the folks that I want to surf, right? This is the big wave that's forming, and I'm going to paddle out to it. And if I want to ride that, I will. But I'm still, personally, I was still flat. What I'm waiting for, again, is that first 30 minutes. Well, where do we see sort of the crescendo of sort of the blind zombie horde Momo? I call them endearingly, maybe not endearingly, the FOMO Momo bozos out there. What are they getting in? Right there, right? Now, the folks who weren't intelligent Bookmap oriented scalpers seeing the size, what happened? Look at these smaller dots. And I'm telling you, that's where most folks go, oh, I'm not going to watch any more of this. Let's get long. What do we know as Bookmap folks? Don't do that. Don't do that. Not only were we hitting, I believe at that point in time, about the 33,787 area, I'm seeing a little bit of larger size. Smaller dots, two big dots, I know that there's selling pressure sitting there. We know there's selling pressure sitting there because of all the different transparency that we have. Okay, the first 30 minutes is done, okay? And we haven't been bamboozled into shorting. Thank you, Bookmap. We haven't been bamboozled into buying the top. Again, thank you, Bookmap. Now, this is what I do. Patience, gang. This is the trade. And a lot of folks get overridden by the whole FOMO and they miss the trade. We pull back. And then I'm looking for support in this zone, essentially between 33.84 and 33.81 and a quarter, 81 and a half. Now, that's a fairly wide range. But what I'm looking for is, once again, congregation, all these dots to congregate, the size to start to show me that, okay, yep, we're starting to see some size here in the 83 area. And that's going to give me the confidence to step in and buy the area between 83 and 84. And that's a pullback, by the way. So remember, I'm not supplanting stuff that I love. I'm confirming it and making it better. We're adding a degree of sonar that traditional analysis, like say a Fibonacci, doesn't have, right? Or traditional clearing range breaches don't have. So now I've got the sonar. Now I can pinpoint my entry. Now I have a lot more confidence. I did two things. I bought SPY, I bought calls in the SPY, and I got long the S&P, and that's how I waited for the size to, one, tell me don't buy up here, and two, now that we've what I call retreated into a zone that is a pullback into volume weighted average price and a Fibonacci retracement of the clearing range, I mean, that's really clear as day to me, only because I knew that I want to be a buyer in here, but I'm not quite sure where, and I'm not quite sure when, right? Where and when is pretty important for us as traders. And then I had the conviction, even though it sort of bounced around for a while, I had size here. I saw where the traders were committed, and then that triggered the buy. So for not 1 second did we think about the short side of the market, and then we've been just pretty much committed to the buy. And I took profit, my first profit, and I'm going to scale out again at some point, but I took my first profit. Let me show you where, and this is where Bookmap does, again, confirm for me. So I know that we have a clearing range high. That's this right here. See that? I carry that across. Take a look at this, gang. That's not an accident. Look at this dot that happens right in there. I'm not looking to pick tops and bottoms. I know that I'm going to leave a few points on the table. I want to, again, pay myself while I can, not when I have to, right? And so that was the first time I scaled out of the trade. And then now I'm going to let this market continue to go in my favor, especially when I've got gorgeous levels like this telling me, Rag, stay patient, okay? So that was this morning's trade, and that's how Bookmap gave me, again, and think about the complementary nature of what Bookmap already did, which is since about 7 a.m. have me short the yen. You think on a day where the yen is this short, I'm not going to have a lot of bullish conviction. And again, the Bookmap's giving me that sonar, that transparency, that this view is going to help, but isn't designed to offer me. So does that help, gang? This is just literally from hours ago, and it's still a position that I'm managing to the upside.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. Great feedback. Great examples here, Raghee. Very
Okay.
helpful.
Any questions? Any points of confusion that I can address? Or
yeah, some questions about. Well, there's a few things that I know you're using Bookmap 7.0. Some people are asking if you've tried the volume delta dots with 7.1. That's something I can show you maybe after the webinar, Raghee, as well as transact data and not offering full depth of market. You're only getting 10 levels on the bid and 10 on the offer in terms of market depth. Although the areas you're pointing to and the way that you're reading the heat map with the volume is working quite well for you here.
So yeah, I think you bring up a really great point. So when I've got and again, I know everyone's coming to this discussion from varying degrees of using Bookmap. So whenever I'm meeting a group for the first time, and again, I really appreciate everyone, taking time out in the morning to join Bruce and I. Whenever I'm, introducing something to a group for the first time, I really start with the absolute basics. And, one thing that my members have is the transact data, right? And I always want to make something as affordable and seamless in the early stages as possible, because I think for a lot of traders, and I myself included, a lot of folks get a cool tool, but they get way too advanced with it too quick. They start committing a lot of capital to it too quick, and then they grow frustrated and abandon it. And this is something I was acutely aware of, because I did not want my traders to feel like they had to have a huge amount of time commitment, a very steep and intimidating learning curve, or even, quite frankly, a lot of capital commitment. So I liked being able to ease people into it, because within about, and I'll tell you this, within about 60 to 90 days max, everybody's like, okay, I'm ready. I'm committed. I got it. This thing's making me money. And I love people to have their own aha moment. And so that's why we have this very gradual sort of learning curve with this. This is how I sort of onboard my traders and I hope what is the least intimidating and least basically consuming way possible. But am I showing you everything that we can do? No, of course not. No, absolutely not. But I think this is a very gradual way to start to implement a tool into our trading. And I deal with a lot of traders that are very oftentimes jaded by the number of just awful tools out there. And of course, Bookmap is one of the most valuable that I have. I almost feel like I'm cheating when I'm using this, and I don't want anybody to grow frustrated or give up on it too quickly. So this is the way I usually sort of onboard my traders, so that they'll stick with it, right? And realize that this is one of those real deal, unbelievable edges in the market that are out there right now. So that's kind of where I'm coming from, Bruce.
Okay, great. That answers those questions. Another question, earlier on, someone was asking about, you trade Forex, spot Forex quite a bit, and you're looking at the currency futures from the CME here. So are you applying, are you trading directly? Well, I imagine you're trading directly in the CME, but also in the spot as well, and maybe some of the crosses, or how do you extrapolate some of the data from Bookmap into that?
So Forex is a little different an animal. I mean, I haven't yet, I've been probably dedicating most of the time that I've had Bookmap with, the main 7 futures that I trade with my crew back at Simpler Trading, which is ES, NQ, RTY, YM, ZB, GC, and 6J. So those 7 markets are what I'm predominantly day trading. And I've been actually experimenting a little bit with equities as well. So I haven't really done a lot in terms of Forex with this. The currency futures are fine, but Forex becomes a completely different animal, because, for example, in dollar yen, I prefer to be in some currency relationships a yen bull. That would be Australian dollar yen and New Zealand dollar yen. But generally speaking, the problem with dollar yen, and I've known this since I had a position in it on a longer term time frame, the issue with dollar yen is just the immense amount of strength we're seeing in the US dollar. So if I'm going to use Bookmap to trade, say, that dollar strength, I'll pull up the 6E. So, right now, I think a lot of folks are noticing that the dollar is just in fuego right now. So I'll pull up the 6E to play the dollar. And so you're not always going to have on the currency future side of things the best pair combinations. That is going to be far better on Forex. But if I'm trading the dollar against something, then I'll definitely use the Bookmap, and I'll definitely use the currency futures for that.
Okay, excellent. Let's see here. Do you do any automated trading strategies as well?
Not really. I do in other markets. I actually have some automated strategies in Forex, but I'm only because it's something that I've been curious about. Can I have something running in the background while I'm discretionary trading? But I'm a discretionary trader. With tools like this, it's less discretion and more just waiting for the evidence of a trend correction and evidence of trend continuation. So not really. I prefer discretionary trading, and when I have something like this, I just, like I said, I feel like I have a tremendous edge on the market that's still looking at a very dogmatic, traditional way of looking at time-based volume and not price-based volume. And that might seem like a very like a semantic difference. And I think to everyone here in this room, you guys know the difference, because the price-based volume, that is really where my trading has been evolving to for a couple years now.
Okay, excellent. Let's see. Yeah, Jerry is asking here about percentage-wise, like optimizing your profit and losses here. I guess using Bookmap, have you seen a dramatic difference pre-Bookmap as opposed to post?
Okay, so are my levels more accurate is really the question, right? I mean, if the levels are more accurate, my entries are going to be better, my stops are going to be better. That's another thing that, and this will be a great topic for maybe a future conversation, but think about stop placement for a moment. I'll still use historical price movement ranges for stops, but if I'm trying to put a trailing stop on this trade and I don't respect, these levels right in here as support, this is where a lot of people use dollar-based or arbitrary point-based stop levels. I'll use Bookmap for my stops as well. Why on earth would I not want to, and especially since I've got so much unrealized profit in this, why on earth would I not want to let this market sell off to layers like this and place a trailing stop below this? So not only is the answer yes, but I want to tell you why. So that'd be really easy to say yes, and that's such a sort of flat binary conversation, but why is it? Like, why are my entries better? Why are my stops better? Why are my targets better? It's the transparency and the conviction that I have that, when I see, again, either the dots start to congregate or the dots start to increase in size, or I start to see where the order flow is waiting, all my levels are just more accurate. Now, I'm still using my tools, but there's a lot of levels that I could consider. So, is it going to be the value area high? Is it going to be the point of control? Is it some time-based volume weighted average prices? I think one thing that all of us traders struggle with are having numerous levels that could be potential reaction levels. It could be potential support or could be potential resistance. And this basically reduces those choices down to a very actionable finite number. And again, that increases confidence and that increases accuracy. And so it's not just yes, but it's a hell yes. and that's why. I hope that helps.
Yeah, that can hell yes will certainly confirm it for us. A few questions here that I think I'll just kind of answer very quickly for you is about the coloration of the volume dots there. Yeah, James, it's not bid and ask. It's the aggressor of that is being displayed there. It's market buy and sell orders in the dots. Okay, it's that's what's being displayed. The let's see what else here. Yeah, Murray, yes, she's using Infinity Futures, and about the correlation to the bid and offer. No, I'm sorry. Here, I lost my my place. Let's see. Okay, yeah, I think. About the details in the volume dots as well. Yes, you can see those. You can use the data tip tool and hover over. You can also zoom in and see all the specifics. Yep, she's using the data tip tool there. If you want the very specifics about what is going on in that volume. Okay, And as you zoom in, you'll be able to break it down and see even, down to nanosecond resolution if you want. Okay. Yeah, that's, I think that answers those. Let's see here.
Can I answer something just real quickly, gang? When I was introducing how to use sort of the pie chart of the dots, and a lot of folks were asking, okay, what's the red versus green, Rog? So this is the way I look at it. Notice that since we've been moving higher, notice how few dots, and most of those dots were smaller, were mostly red. So let me point out a couple of them right here. That one right there, you'll see it's mostly red, but very small. Notice the larger dots are mostly green. So that to me is still relatively bullish. I may proactively take some profit just because of the large size that's happening. Because look, I don't want to overstay my welcome in any trend. But when people ask me about the coloration, and maybe Bruce, you can tell me if this is super accurate or not, but until you start seeing large dots that are dominating the red, as far as I'm concerned with this trend, I'm not going to be concerned that I'm going to be overpowered by a formidable amount of selling. So again, my level of relaxation to continue to follow this trend, despite the fact that it's pulling back a little bit, is because I'm not seeing a dot that's dominated by the red that's a large size. So Bruce, would you say it's fairly accurate?
Absolutely. In fact, I mean, there's so many different ways. I really like the way you're zoomed out, looking at the bigger picture here, using Bookmap, just being patient with your trading and your management. And you can filter the volume in many different ways, as well as the heat map. The way you're filtering and reading it is giving you a lot of insight.
I think one thing I find that, this view to me, and again, I think a lot of, and I want to speak for anybody, but I think a lot of folks think this is just a tool to get in and get out and get in and get out. And sure, you can if you'd like. I'm not a scalper by nature. I don't particularly like that type of trading. And certainly you can do this, because this is like literally seeing, to me, like I said, as we started this conversation, it's like seeing the pit, only now it's visualized. But I think the one thing that I really wanted to get across to everybody with my time with you guys is the fact that, one, it can be a tool that acts as a filter for other tools, because we're all coming to Bookmap typically from another charting platform, and a lot of folks don't want to abandon things they're already doing. So what I say is this supercharges it. It makes it better because you've got that ability to be a sonar trader. You're sonar trading. And number two, I think a lot of folks really overlook the fact that this is a tremendous trend following tool. If you want to find those intraday trends and have the conviction to stick with them, I'm in a trade right now that's, about 7 points in a pretty narrow day. And if you think about what broader market participants probably did in this little pocket right here, they either did one of two things. They bailed or they got short. And when I'm able to look and just chill out and look at where the size is at and look at the size of the dots, notice I'm not giving it a second thought, and notice how the markets are just kind of floating back up again. I'm looking at it 92.5 for my next target, when I scale out again, and I'll be down to, I think, about 2 or 3 lots at that point for the remainder of the day, right? And another thing to remember too, once you've got the ability to have a nice cushion of profit, take a look at that VWAP. Take a look at the VWAP sitting there and say, look, as long as we're above that VWAP, which we can chart on Bookmap, kind of leave it alone. I think a lot of traders don't have the ability to be patient and risk unrealized profit in order to see how high is high. And again, I think that's where Bookmap for me brings that level of calm, where I'm just not worried about every little twitch of a candle, because I can see inside the candle. I'm literally pinging away sonar inside that candle. So I hope I've gotten those points across to everybody, in our short time together.
Yeah, absolutely. Some more questions about some of the volume dots. If you could just right click, Raghee, on one of the dots and then go to the volume dot settings. They want to take a look at your settings there.
Sure.
So there you go, guys. She has the smart clustering on, and that's it. It's about midway on the slider there. So Mamie, that will answer also, I think, your questions, the last string of questions about your volume and the volume dots, et cetera.
I have some different settings that I do play around with on different layouts that I've saved, but I purposely kept things pretty default because I think before we can start to tweak things, I like starting off with a very default, basic way of looking at a new platform. Where some of you might be wandering into this, maybe you're in your first 3 months. You know, when you look back at your Bookmap use after another 3 months, you're going to find how much it's evolved. But I find that, especially with a tool like this, keep it really basic in the beginning, get really fluent in the basics, and then, you know, start to tweak. I think if we tweak too quick, we start to just wander too far away from just the basic out of the box goodness that is Bookmap, because it is really good to go out of the box, gang. You know, what you want to do with it after that is perfectly up to you. But to think that, you know, for me, I haven't tweaked a lot, as you guys can tell, and it doesn't need it. You know, not really to be effective. It really doesn't need it. That's my opinion.
Excellent. Another question, a few questions here about stocks and how you look at stocks and maybe differently compared to the futures.
No difference. Gosh, no difference at all. But what I will say, and maybe sometime in the future we can talk about stocks. What I will say is the way I like to group the stocks. So remember, I'm looking at Dow, Russell, Nas, S&P, yen. And remember, yen gave me a lot of confidence about the conviction that I have to the long side in the averages. So if I did get any short triggers, which I did earlier this morning, I ignored them. I got short triggers aggressively on the Russell and the Dow, and thanks but no thanks. You know, but when I'm going to trade stocks, what I prefer to do is, you know, grab some of the more heavily weighted names within the averages. So if I'm going to play the S&P, of course, I'm keeping an eye on things like sector-wise, tech, healthcare, and financials. If I'm looking at the NASDAQ, which I've been the most bullish in, you know, Apple, Microsoft, Facebook, Google, Amazon. So I will look at the heavily weighted names within those sectors. That way it becomes very complementary. I'm not trading something that's likely to do something very different than the broader averages. I'm not looking for an anomaly. I'm looking for sort of that more cooperative, grouped, correlated because of the weighting approach. So it's not real complicated. What I'll do is, you know, just kind of break down the average into the top 10 or 11 weighted names, and I'll focus on the most heavily weighted of them, and I'll just run that on Bookmap.
Okay, excellent. I think you've answered. There's a lot of questions about different data fees, et cetera, and you've already answered those, Raghee, very succinctly. So I think we can kind of skip over that. Raghee, I don't know how much time you have. We've been going about 55 minutes or so. If maybe one or two more questions, if
Sure, whatever you
someone
want.
wants to get in here.
Sure.
Okay. Let's see.
By the way, gang, you see the NAS that I have on the screen right now? A lot of people are going to flip out because the market moved about 10, 11 points like this, right? Now, the ability for me to stay calm with my longs and just say, hey, let the market move 10 or 11 points. The NASDAQ has a typical price movement range. And look how it's sandwiched. It's really not going anywhere. Now, if I wanted to be really aggressive, I could play back and forth, but I don't want to do that because I have mostly bullish conviction. But look, I'll just really sit and let the market do what it has to do when I see that it's sandwiched. And that's what I mean by the transparency and just the ability to sort of sit and be really patient with that kind of back and forth movement that, of course, we're seeing during the midday doldrums, which shouldn't surprise us either. But when a lot of the market might get really intimidated or confused or antsy, and this, you know, I realize why we're doing this. See, most traders don't know why we're stuck in this range, do they? Right? But the moment I take a look at this, it's like, oh, but of course, take a look at the level to the south, take a look at the level to the north. That's why we're sandwiched, right? So that's what I mean by transparency and just that calm that we can have.
Wow, that's a fantastic answer. And a really big theme, Raghee, that it's so nice to hear is about the patience. A lot of the traders that we've had webinars with, they haven't really talked too much about that, and the calm and the ease that Bookmap is giving you while you're in your positions and managing them.
I mean, look at the size of the dots near the bottom of the range, gang. You know, am I in any way concerned that as we reach support that I'm seeing size? No, they're my friends, right? They're my friends. And yeah, I see a little bit more red here, but as far as I'm concerned, there might be a little conflict in the message, but if you have directional bias, and take a look, this is why I love this scrunched up view. I think if we look at this chart like this, we might get bamboozled into a short. When we step back and look at the chart like this, and feel free to play around with that horizontal axis. Feel free to squeeze this stuff in, because you're going to say, why on earth would I not look at that as an opportunity to play a pullback with a quick bounce to the upside of the current resistance? So yeah, I hope that patience and that directional conviction is coming through. Thank you, Bruce.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And some very nice compliments regarding that. And I think that's about it. So there's some other kind of questions in and kind of loosely or tangentially related to some of her answers there. So I think we'll kind of skip over those. But just wanted to say thank you very much, Raghee. Fantastic webinar.
Again, thank you so much, gang. I'm a fan. I've been a user of Bookmap for a really long time, and one of the things that I always tell my members is if I'm using something, it's because I'm paying for it. I subscribe to it, and like I said, I just met Bruce just, I don't know, maybe 2 months ago. Bruce, we finally got acquainted.
Yeah, not long ago at all.
And I actually paid for Bookmap month to month for, and you could probably see in my account, Bruce, but I think I paid month to month for maybe 2 months. And about 60 days in, I'm like, sign me up. I'm done. I'm in. I'm convinced. And that was that. So I've been a user, and I'm really honored that you guys asked me to speak, because you guys have had some epic speakers. And so I hope this was helpful. It is purposely basic, but I really want you guys to understand that, get that good foundation of understanding the dots congregating, the size, understanding when a market sandwich, understanding that directional conviction, and then start getting a little bit more advanced with this. This will grow with you. I mean, Bookmap is certainly capable of growing with you as you get more sophisticated as a trader, but I guess I want to say that I don't use it in a really highly sophisticated way, and it's giving me a tremendous amount of transparency, that sonar, as I like to call it, in my trading. So I'm just a fan, and I'm really, again, thanks everyone for your time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Raghee. Really wonderful stuff. People are asking about some of the subscription specials, etc. Guys, I've been putting it into the chat. Look into the chat there, along with content or contact information for Raghee. That it's all in there. This is recorded. It will be on our YouTube channel later today, this afternoon, and then Raghee will also have access to that to broadcast to you guys who are you guys following her. And I think that's about it, Raghee. And we'll definitely. Really interested in doing another one with you here, maybe shortly, if we can get to. That'd be fantastic.
No, it'd be my pleasure. It'd be my pleasure.
Okay, well, thanks, Raghee, and thank you, everybody, and we'll connect another time.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, bye-bye.